Hello everyone, today we talk about the fifth season by N.K. Jemisin. It's the first book in the Broken Earth series, and in my opinion, it's a modern classic. The book, the fifth season by N.K. Jemisin, was published in 2015, and it won the Hugo Award for 2016, as well as a boatload of other awards, rightfully so, in my opinion. The fifth season is set in a world where Earth, Father Earth as he's called in this book, is unstable. We've got earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis that happen casually, constantly. They're flattening cities, killing people, and everybody's living in, in fear of the next earthquake or volcano. And the name the fifth season comes from the fact that we have summer, autumn, winter, spring, death. Death is the fifth season, catastrophe. However, people in this world, in stillness, as the continent is called, are not helpless. There are some people that are called the Origins, and they're people able to magically manipulate the earth. They're able to mitigate earthquakes and stop them from happening, stabilizing volcanoes and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, they're feared because they don't have full control of their powers. So every day people fear them. They call them Rogas, and they're basically enslaved by the Empire running Stillness, the Sun's Empire, and they work as agents to terraform and stabilize the Earth. The book starts with one such person leveling the capital city of Sanse, and this, as the narrator of this story tells us, is not important. And it's also the inciting incident. What is important is our main character, Ashton. She's a royal Gorojin who is living in secret in a common. That's how communities are called commons. And when her 3-year-old son displays his powers, her husband panics, beats him to death, and he takes their daughter and runs away. Well, Ashton is in shock. The end of the world comes. The capital city of Sansa is destroyed, and people run for their lives. And of course, Ashton tries to track her daughter while civilization is collapsing around her. And there are two more point of view characters, but we'll get to them a bit later. There is reason for that. I have to nitpick about the things I not much like about this book before mentioning how great it is. Because I had some friends who were very ambivalent about this book, and they were not as enthused as most people were, and that made me approach this book with a bit of hesitancy. I was not that hot on reading that because of some very bad reviews I've read from people I trust. But after reading the book, I get why those people are annoyed by the hype and how there are some things that may put some people off, but they're mostly mitigated by the rest of the book. So it's two things I have to mention. The elephant in the room is the writing, of course. For full transparency, I'll have to say that I haven't read the original version of the fifth season. I've read the translated version. It's this book over here. Amazing cover, and the cover was the reason why I bought the book. So yes, you take everything I say about this book, about the writing in this book, with a grain of salt, because it might have been the translation, even though I can say that this translation was very competent. I thought the writing in this book was, for lack of a better word, pretentious. Why I say that? It's too much. Well, Essence point of view is written in second person present tense, which is too much because present tense is very intense. It's very current, happening right now. It's very in your face and aggressive, and second person is very odd because it gets to be point to the reader, but at the same time, it's like there is a wall between the reader, the main character, the narrator. Its first person and third person narratives mostly mitigate, because the narrator is a character, and oftentimes we have his or her thoughts in parentheses, and this is extra pretentiousness. The other two point of views are in third person, so yes, that's much better in my opinion. But yes, the reading in the beginning was very odd, second person. But after I've read some of it, I started noticing that I was reading 10 and 20 pages in one sitting, and was not aware of that. Pages flowed very well. So I can complain the writing is off, because after a while, the writing in this book feels very natural, it flows very well, and it's not bothersome. Actually, some scenes, because of the weird writing style, are interesting. There are some transitions, some hints about stuff because of the writing tense. And speaking of hints, we'll go to the two more point of views, because we have two more women in this book. We have Damaya and Cyanide. Damaya is a girl that discovers that she has the powers of an orogene, and she's taken in to be trained the Nod. Cyanide is an orogene too. She's a young woman, and she's given a mission. She has to escort a high-ranking orogene and have a baby with him, and she's not fond of him. And since in the prologue we learn that the node is destroyed, it's apparent that these two point of views, these storylines, are set in the past. From early on, you can see how those three protagonists, those three main characters, are connected. But the author keeps it hush hush. Okay, she throws some hints, and when the big reveal comes, it's not big reveal, it's treated as something that you should have noticed. And Kate Jemison assumes that you've noticed that these three characters relate in this specific way. So yes, kudos to her for that. But yes, still this vagueness, the fact that it's not revealed from the beginning, is to me at least, it feels like there are extra pages added in there, and this is not necessary to do that. Because okay, we have these plot lines in order to get some world building, as I believe in the beginning, and then we have setups for a lot of stuff that's happening later on. So it's not cheap padding to get the book to be big, and the foreshadowing is spot on. But still, it's a 600-page book. It's a doorstopper, and I felt that not much was happening in the book because of the hopping between those three point of views, and the book literally ends in a cliffhanger, because one character asks Essen, "What do you know about X?" Which X, this. What do you know about X? This question is a huge, mind-blowing plot twist. I mean, seriously, you do that? I mean, yes, I know it's a fantasy novel. It's written in 2016, so one should expect that there will be a lot of beating around the bush, and have a lot of scenes to immerse ourselves in a world, and lots of so don't tell world building. Span pages. No, to me it feels like it, the whole trilogy was probably a 1,000 page long novel, and was padded to become a trilogy. Some sort of way. It's not 100% though. It's a bit of feeling I've got. Important stuff happens in book one, and a lot of scenes that are very powerful. They really put you into the shoes of those characters and the world. Great, but I could do with some more plot, and some closure instead of a cliffhanger for book two. But I love the world building, and I mean the names are amazing. Come to think of it, we have the stillness, which is an ironic way to talk about a land where everything is quaking. We have the node. It's a great name. We've got orogenes, which is great nameplay, because orogenes is Greek for those that are keen to the mountains, those that are bred of the mountains of sort. And I think that the author really wanted to write orogons, which is those who give birth to mountains. But of course, native speakers would miss that or make the same decisions. So kudos to her. That's a very good name. That's how you make fantasy names because it's very hard. I mean, I'm in some fantasy groups, and for writers, and writers asking, how should I call that? Um, Most of the time, coming up with a good Greek or not Latin name will save your life. And Orogenes is a great name for people who control the earth. I really love it. And the world building makes sense. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who will read something and say that makes sense. And here I started reading and I saw a guy live in a city, and then Ashton do her stuff with origining. Was like, these people are enslaved. They should be able to rule the world. Some pages later, I was given a number of scenes with Damaya and how she's getting inducted into the node, and it makes so much sense because we have these people who are very powerful, but if they lose their concentration, if they lose their focus, they will be dangerous to everybody, themselves and people around them. So have to be controlled and control themselves. There's a lot of manipulation done by Sansa, the node, in order to make these people enslave themselves. And later on in the Cyanide chapters, we see how this training, how this self-enslavement of our genes and their dehumanization internalized by cyanide, which is awesome. I mean, and Kate Jemison is a psychologist, so she clearly understands how this culture work, how these cults work, how these environments work, and it's great. I really loved it. As I said, this book should be a classic because it takes everything that were popular in the tens, science fiction and fantasy, and it combines them very well. It does the impossible feat taking a YA dystopia and grimdark fantasy, tying them together. I mean, it's a marriage of two very incompatible genres. This may sound weird, of course, but we have this unforgiving setting, these multiple point of views, this bad stuff happening to people who don't deserve to this happen. Children are innocent, have lots of brutal stuff to them. So if you're not feeling comfortable about reading some violence against children, it's not a book for you. We have characters who are morally grey. They have to make some very tough decisions throughout this novel, like in Grimdark. And then, of course, we have a lot of YA tropes. I mean, we have enslaved, powerful people who are dehumanized, but they rise to the occasion. We've got a caste system in the society of the dystopian society. I mean, people have different names depending on their occupation, their skills. They're bred for those skills and occupations. We have diversity. I mean, most of the people in this book are of African descent, or as I understand from reading that. It sounds quite pronounced. We have a lot of LGBTQ plus representation, characters who belong to these groups, and of course, all this representation, all this diversity, it feels very organic, never feels forced, and sense within the novel in most cases. So yeah, points for that too. There is a very important concept throughout this book in all three storylines, and it's the concept of found family, which is of paramount importance as a trope in YA, not just dystopia. So yeah, the book deserves all the award it gets because it's representative of its time. It does everything that resonated with people of that era very well. It's very well thought, very well structured, very well written. The pacing, while it was not lighting, was great, and people enjoying doorstoppers of tens would probably like the pacing. It was very good. It was never quite slow. Always something happening, and everything in there is mostly important. Not everything. Most of the stuff in this book are important to the plot, the story, the characters. So yes, for me, this book is a recommend. but I don't think I'll be in a hurry to read the next two books. And that's pretty subjective because some of the tropes I mentioned I don't quite like. The writing style put me off. The writing was good, but the writing style is, I don't know, I don't think I can read 1,200 pages of second person narrative. Yes, the characters, I don't quite resonate with them. I can understand their emotions, their fears, their actions, and how the world shapes them. And of course, I appreciate the craft of the entire novel, as I said, but the characters did not resonate with me. And I mean, as for the craft, remember that there is this huge ending cliffhanger, this plot twist that is mind blowing. It was foreshadowed 100 pages earlier. It says credit to N.K. Jemisin. It makes perfect sense to be there, and I'm curious about how this happened, but I was able to, pretty much guess some of the stuff about it. So I'm not that curious. So in the end, it's not my cup of tea, but it was good. It was great. And if you're curious if you should read this book, yes, you should read this book. Just don't buy book two and book three. While getting book one, because you should probably decide if you like it or not. See that many people will be put off by some of the stuff done by this book. So, have you read the fifth season? If you've done so, please leave a comment, your opinion. Like this video, press the like button, and I'll see you soon on the video. Thank you for watching.